In times of conflict, in times of disaster, when lives are disrupted, basic services are lost, and people can be forced from their homes, entire families become more vulnerable. But it is children who often pay the heaviest price in times of conflict and disaster when they are pushed into child labor.
I had to carry heavy bags of potatoes. That's why I'm not growing taller anymore. The work bent my back.
I worked in potato harvesting when I was 10 years old. When I did that work, I felt tired and older than I was.
I went to work in the jam factory when I was 13. I used to leave at 6 a.m. and come back at 8 p.m. The pay was very low.
Bushra, Hussein, and Khadija are among the estimated 550,000 Syrian refugee children in Lebanon as a result of the conflict in Syria. Most of the refugee families live in tents for which they pay rent. They have few sources of income. All are looking for any kind of work they can find, as the ILO Director General Guy Ryder pointed out during a visit to one of the tent cities.
We do need to make sure that when the ILO, for example, intervenes to provide market access to refugees, we also have very much in our mind the needs of host communities which are already suffering, I think, from frequently difficult labour market conditions, high levels of unemployment. And I think in everything that the ILO and the UN does, we have to try to combine our responsibilities towards the refugee populations with our support to host communities.
Bushra's mother, Kalima, used to be a housewife. Now she peels garlic to help pay the rent and family expenses. She feels guilty her children have to work.
I want them to get an education and develop their talents. There are many things we were deprived of. Of course, I want my children to have a better life than mine.
The Bekaa Valley is Lebanon's food bank, where most of the country's agriculture is located and where combating child labor is a major challenge. In refugee communities, many children are being pushed into child labor.
Children are being denied an education. They are working 2 shifts a day. A working day for us is 8 hours. Some middlemen employ children 2 shifts in a row.
Recently, the major players in Lebanon gathered at a workshop to talk about a renewed effort in the fight against child labor. A memo banning children under 16 specifically from working in agriculture, one of the most prevalent forms of child labor since the Syrian conflict began. Forged with the help of the ILO Regional Office of the Arab States, the Ministry of Labor, health specialists, law enforcement, and the National Farmers Union, the new memo and the existing Decree 8987 prohibiting hazardous work for anyone under 18 is in line with the ILO child labor conventions.
This law is considered the strongest in Lebanese legislation in terms of direct intervention to help children and their parents, and to stop those exploiting children in this area.
This is a joint achievement, first for the Lebanese government, represented by the Ministry of Labor and General Security, second for the ILO, which initiated it, and for the Union of Farmers, who are also on board.
General Security, the responsible law enforcement agency, now has a powerful new tool to combat child labor. Cooperation among all the partners is the key.
We all work in tandem, each doing their part to protect the vulnerable and children. The experience has been excellent. We do whatever is asked of us, and if we ask anything of these organizations, they do not hesitate to support us. We are always ready to play our part.
In partnership with the ILO, the Beirut-based NGO Beyond is also playing a key role in Lebanon's national strategy for combating the worst forms of child labor, a problem made worse by the flood of war refugees from Syria.
These refugee children have been through a lot. They've seen violence, they've lost their homes, their friends, their families. The psychological toll on them is very heavy.
The Beyond Community Center provides a kindergarten and nursery for refugee children so their parents can find or go to work. And there are talent sections for art, drama, and music.
Child labor in crisis is a relatively new field. The ILO saw the importance of training local NGOs and learning from them. They found the right balance, and that is rare.
The key is really to develop very quick response mechanisms and to connect the humanitarian actors with those who have a competence on labor markets, inspection and work, because ultimately people need to go back to work to sustain themselves. And work, as we know, is also a very big foundation for sustainable peace.
It's been less than a year since Hurricane Matthew devastated southern regions of Haiti. Thousands of people were left homeless. More than 500 died. With the destruction of lives and livelihoods, poverty intensified, and so did the incidence of child labor. The community of Kai was one of the hardest hit.
After the hurricane, I lost my uniform, my shoes, and all my possessions. My home was destroyed. We had to go and live with other people. I didn't go to school for a long time.
As a direct result of Matthew, many of the community's children are working to help support their families. Some are sent away to work in domestic child labor. Others work long hours in agriculture. The hurricane destroyed most of the fields and crops. Few of them go to school.
This type of disaster disrupts children's normal activities. They have to find something else to do, which often results in children working when they are very young.
At a special school created for families who can't afford to send their children to school, children use the ILO's SCREAM program to create pictures of what life was like before the hurricane and how life has changed afterwards. The experience is transformative.
This drawing shows where I used to live happily with my family. When Matthew hit, it destroyed our house. An aunt whose house was not destroyed came to get me, but she refused to pay for my schooling. I was left to fend for myself.
A vocational training program targeted at young teenagers whose family farms were destroyed by Matthew is helping change their lives.
I would like to be an agronomist. I can continue to learn based on what I have been taught here. I am learning something new. I would like to set an example for people in my region.
More than 400 Haitian children at risk for child labor are benefiting from the vocational training program. Bushra has now lived as a refugee in Lebanon for 4 years, but she's looking to the future. At the Beyond Community Center, she is singing, playing music, and has big dreams.
I want to become a doctor, to finish my education, to continue with music, and to go back to my country.
Child labor is everyone's responsibility. The responsibility of the international community, the local community, the parents themselves. We have to make it stop, today and not tomorrow.